Welcome back to bmaster79. In this lesson we are taking on ielts speaking part 2 and part 3. Cue card number 39. Describe a piece of good news that you heard about someone you are familiar with. We will plan it, we will hear a full model long turn, and then we will work through all 6 part 3 questions. 2 quick pieces of honesty before we begin. First, the speaker you are about to hear is an invented persona called Trang. The story is written for this video. It did not happen. Copy the technique, never the content, because an examiner has heard every borrowed story there is. Second, the Band 9 label on this video reflects our own assessment against the public ielts band descriptors. It is not a certified examiner score, and you should treat it as a target to aim at rather than a guarantee. Here is the shape of part 2. The examiner hands you a card, gives you 1 minute to prepare, and hands you a pencil and paper. You then speak for between 1 and 2 minutes. The examiner will stop you at 2 minutes. Speaking for less than a minute and a half is the single most common way candidates lose marks here, so your target is a comfortable 1 minute 45 to 2 minutes. This is the card, reproduced exactly as it is printed. Read it twice before you write anything. Notice that it is not asking you for the good news in the abstract. It wants a piece of news about a specific person you already know. A note on the wording. We display these cards verbatim rather than tidying them up, and there are 2 things worth flagging. The third prompt reads how you knew it, where most cards would say how you found out about it. And in part 3, the first question asks about sharing something on social media, not good news specifically. In the exam, answer what is actually on the card. If a prompt is vague, narrow it yourself in your opening clause and then answer the narrowed version. Now the preparation minute. The mistake almost everybody makes is trying to write sentences. You cannot read aloud from your notes without it being painfully obvious, so sentences are wasted ink. Here is the method. And here is what 60 seconds of planning actually looks like. 4 lines, 1 per bullet, keywords only. Look at how specific they are. Not a friend got good news, but NGOK, a fully funded scholarship, environmental engineering, the Netherlands, after 3 rejections. That specificity is what separates a Band 6 answer from a Band 9 one, and it all fits on half a page.
The piece of good news I'd like to talk about came from my closest friend NGOK, someone I've known since our very first week at university, and honestly, I don't think I've ever been quite so happy on somebody else's behalf. What happened was that she landed a fully funded scholarship to do a master's in environmental engineering in the Netherlands. Now that might not sound earth-shattering on the face of it, but you'd have to know the backstory. She had applied 3 years running and been turned down every single time. By that point she'd more or less resigned herself to letting the whole idea go. As to when I heard about it, it was a Thursday night in April, very late, close to midnight. I was already in bed, half asleep, and my phone just would not stop buzzing on the nightstand. I remember being mildly irritated before I had even looked at the screen. And that is actually how I found out. She rang me on a video call rather than texting, which she almost never does. The second screen lit up, I could see she'd been crying. Her eyes were red and puffy, so for a split second my heart sank and I braced myself for something awful. Then she spun the laptop round so I could read the acceptance email, and she simply burst out laughing. She never actually said the words out loud. She let the email do the talkings. As for how I felt, the obvious answer is that I was over the moon, but there was rather more to it than that. What I mainly felt was a sort of quiet vindication on her behalf, because I'd had a front row seat for every single knockback. I'd watched her pick herself up, rewrite that personal statement, and go again, so it felt less like luck and far more like something she had earned. And I'd be lying if I said it didn't give me a push as well. I ended up sitting there in the dark, grinning like an idiot, thinking that persistence genuinely does pay off every now and again, which, at that point in my own life, was exactly what I needed to hear.
Before we move on, here is why that answer works. 5 things, and none of them are about fancy vocabulary. Now part 3. This is a discussion, not a monologue. The questions become abstract and the examiner will push back, so you are being assessed on whether you can develop an opinion rather than simply state one. Aim for roughly 30 to 60 seconds per answer. There are 6 questions on this card, and we will take all of them. Question 1. Is it good to share something on social media? Here is how to attack it. Vague question. Narrow it in your first clause. Refuse the yes/no. Answer it cuts both ways, then give both sides. Finish with a personal rule, not a shrug.
I'd say it cuts both ways, honestly. On the plus side, sharing is how most of us keep up with people we would otherwise drift away from, a friend's graduation, a new baby, the sort of thing, and it costs almost nothing. The flip side is that a great deal of what gets posted is heavily curated, so people end up broadcasting a highlight reel rather than a life. And once something is out there, you have effectively lost control of it. So my rule of thumb would be share freely, but assume it is permanent and public.
Question 2. Should the media only publish good news? Here is how to attack it. Take a clear position first, then concede the strongest counter-argument. Name the function of the press. Abstract nouns lift your lexical resource. Land on a distinction, not censorship, but proportion.
No, I don't think that would be healthy at all, however tempting it sounds. The press has a watchdog function. If outlets only ran feel-good stories, corruption and incompetence would go completely unchecked. That said, there is a legitimate criticism of if it leads mentality, because a relentless diet of doom and gloom leaves people anxious and rather fatalistic. So the answer is not censorship, it is proportion. Report the bad news certainly, but give constructive stories their fair share of the front page.
Question 3. How does social media help people access information? Here is how to attack it. Answer the actual question first. Speed and reach. Give one concrete illustration. Examiners reward specificity. Add the caveat because a one-sided answer looks unexamined.
Its biggest advantage is probably speed and reach. During a natural disaster, for instance, eyewitness footage can circulate within minutes, long before a broadcaster has crews on the ground. It has also flattened the hierarchy. A scientist or a doctor can now speak directly to the public without going through a gatekeeper. The obvious caveat is that the very same mechanism spreads misinformation just as efficiently, and the algorithms tend to funnel people into echo chambers where everything they see confirms what they already believed.
Question 4. What kind of good news do people often share in the community? Here is how to attack it. What kind wants categories, not one example. Give 2. Use your own country as evidence. It is the one source you cannot be wrong about. Close by saying what the sharing is for.
In my experience, it is overwhelmingly about milestones, weddings, births, someone passing their university entrance exams, a family opening a new business. Where I am from, academic results are a particularly big deal. They get announced at community gatherings and everybody piles in with congratulations. There is also a great deal of what you might call small-scale good news, someone's lost dog turning up, a neighbor recovering well from an operation. None of that is headline-worthy, but it is precisely the sort of thing that binds a neighborhood together.
Question 5. Do most people like to share good news with others? Here is how to attack it. Say broadly yes, then explain the mechanism, why, not just what. Then complicate it. A qualified answer always outscores a flat one. Bring in a cultural dimension if you can do it without stereotyping.
Broadly, yes, and I think there is a psychological reason for it. Telling someone effectively doubles the pleasure, because you get to relive the moment through their reaction. There is a social dimension too. The good news is a very low-risk way of maintaining a relationship. That said, it is not universal. Some people hold back because they are wary of coming across as boastful, and in more collectivist cultures, there can be a genuine fear of tempting fate or of making a friend who is struggling feel worse. So I would say most people want to share, but they are quite selective about who with.
Question 6. Do people like to hear good news from their friends? Here is how to attack it. The easy answer is yes. The band 9 answer admits the awkward part. Do not moralize, describe honestly and stay measured. Finish with the variable that decides it.
Generally, yes. Genuinely close friends tend to feel a kind of reflective pride. But I would be naive to pretend that envy never comes into it. If a friend gets the exact promotion you were passed over for, the congratulations can be a little strained however much you mean them. I think the deciding factor is where you happen to be in your own life. When things are going well for you, you can be delighted for other people without reservation. When they are not, somebody else's good fortune can sting a little, and that is simply human.
Here is the language bank from the long term. Learn these as whole chunks, not as single words, because that is how they actually get used. And these came out of the part 3 discussion. These are the ones that lift an answer from good to genuinely advanced. Finally, the 4 criteria you are marked on and what that answer was doing in each of them. Remember the caveat, this is our assessment against the public descriptors, not a certified score. So here is your task before the next lesson. Do not just watch this one. If this helped, subscribe to bmaster79 and I will see you in the next lesson.